You finally started making more money, but somehow life still didn't feel under control. The bills were getting paid. The income looked better. But the stress never really left. And after a while, you start realizing something uncomfortable. More money does not automatically fix the thing that's actually making you feel unstable. What this feels like. A lot of people think the moment they make more money, everything is supposed to calm down. You finally get the raise, the better paycheck, the extra breathing room, and for a minute it does feel better. Till life starts happening again. Something breaks. Expenses creep up. Stress comes back. And somehow the feeling underneath never actually changed. That's the confusing part. 'Cause from the outside it looks like things improved. But internally, you still feel behind. Still tense. Still trying to hold everything together. And eventually you start wondering, if the money is better now, why do I still feel this unstable? Why this keeps happening? But then you notice something strange. Paycheck changed, but your nervous system didn't. You still react like everything could fall apart tomorrow. More money can relieve pressure temporarily, but it does not automatically create structure, stability, emotional safety, long-term direction. And most people never realize that distinction. They spend years believing, if I can just earn more, everything will finally feel okay. But if the system underneath your life is still fragile, more income just gives the instability a slightly larger cushion. That's why some people make more money and still panic constantly, avoid looking at numbers, feel exhausted, feel one bad month away from collapse. The emotional pressure never fully leaves because the real problem was never just income. It was the lack of stability underneath everything. And this is where people start blaming themselves, without realizing the feeling they're fighting may have been building for years. What this leads to, over time, this creates something dangerous. You stop trusting progress. Even when things improve, part of you expects everything to fall apart again anyway. So instead of feeling secure, you stay mentally stuck in survival mode. You hesitate. You overthink spending. You struggle to relax. You feel guilty enjoying anything. 'Cause deep down, your brain still believes this can disappear at any moment. And eventually that pressure starts shaping your identity. You stop feeling like someone building a future and start feeling like someone constantly trying to avoid disaster. That changes how you live. What to do instead? The goal is not just making more money. The goal is building a life that feels stable even when pressure shows up. That means understanding where your instability actually comes from, building systems that survive real life, reducing hidden financial pressure, creating breathing room intentionally, and learning how to trust your own structure. 'Cause real control is not, I made more this month. Real control is, my life does not emotionally collapse every time something goes wrong. That's a completely different kind of security. And honestly, most people spend years chasing income without ever realizing that. Because eventually you start seeing something uncomfortable. A lot of people are not actually struggling because they make too little. They're struggling because no matter how hard they try, they still feel behind. And if that feeling never changes, more money alone will never fully fix the pressure underneath it. Which raises a bigger question. Why do some people keep feeling behind, even when they're genuinely trying to move forward? Because after a while, the problem stops being just money. You can be trying, working harder, making more, and somehow still feel like you're falling behind emotionally. That feeling usually doesn't come from laziness, and it usually doesn't appear overnight. It builds slowly until eventually you start carrying the pressure everywhere with you. And that's the part most people never talk about. So if you've been trying hard and still feeling stuck emotionally, Subscribe and stay with this series, because the deeper pattern underneath this affects a lot more people than you think.